Hey, hi everyone. How's everyone doing? How's the weekend going, folks? Hey, hi Adarsh. Welcome back. Hello. What's up? Oh, I'm doing awesome. How are you? How's your weekend going? Hey, hi. Um, so I'll cover this when we get started with the workshop actually. So basically, what we're going to do today is write a smart contract for our to-do application and deploy it on a local blockchain and then test it. And also, we might get started with building our front end today. So, yeah, great, awesome. So, I will request you all to, go on to the OHQ link, register, and check in over there. And meanwhile, I'll just get my things set up. Yeah, cool. So, what we're going to do today is that we're going to write a smart contract for the to-do application, and it is gonna be we'll start from a very simple smart contract and we'll try to integrate authentication and more features in our application. So once we're done with building our smart contract, we'll set up our MetaMask account, we'll set up Truffle and our directory, and then Ganache, and then we'll try to deploy our smart contract. And we will also learn a little bit of React, not exactly learning, but the components, how the components will be used here. So that is something what we're going to do today. Let me create a new file in this folder so that we can create our to-do application smart contract. So I'm just simply naming it to-do app.sol. Make sure you write this extension sol as we discussed. And now what do we do at the first? So I hope you all remember from the last workshop that at the first we're supposed to write the license identifier. So instead of writing it, I'll just copy paste it from here, from the previous smart contract we discussed. Yes. Hey, hi Nisar. How's it going? Yes, exactly, others. First of all, we created a .sol file, and now we have added the first two things, which is the uncommented license, which is the commented license identifier, and the pragma solidity version. Now let us actually get started with writing our smart contract. I'm simply writing to do list as the contract, right? I hope you all remember this. And now, what we're planning to do, let us just write down what we actually want to do. I want to add the name of task. I want the user to be add the status of the task. So we can create from this. We understand that we can create a string for this, and for this we can use a boolean value, right? We understand what boolean value is. Boolean value is either true or false, right? So now we know that we can have a string for the name of task or the description of task, and then we can have a boolean value for the status of the task. Also, just like how we discussed yesterday, to identify a student, we needed a roll number. So similarly here as well, to identify this task, we might need some task ID, or let's say serial number. So for this, let us just add a task ID. So we can use an unsigned integer for this, right? So also, all of this together can be put inside one struct, that is task. So all of this would be just one data type for us, like a class as we discussed yesterday. So let me add all of this. We want at the first the task ID. I want the next as the task description, or let us just keep it description. Do not make it too long, otherwise it's quite difficult to recall back the variable names. So, and the next I want is the status of the task. So, boolean if whether the task was completed or not. Right. So, also for your reference to track down what is actually happening, let me post this GitHub link for you all so that you can, actually go back in case you miss it and access this. Here I'm posting this repository link, and this repository might have some issues or something. So you go ahead and find out these issues, and you can actually add a pull request to that and improve this code. So we're simply done with creating a struct of task. Now I do not want the user to give this task ID, so let me just create a task count so that this task count gets incremented automatically and the task ID gets assigned to the task automatically. Need not do it manually now. Now, once we have added, created this task data, right? What else do we want to do? We want the user to be able to add a task. We want the user to be able to, fetch that task, view that task. I mean, so he can view that task. Also, we want the user to be able to actually complete that task. I mean, by that I mean, check that checklist, put a check on that task that it has been completed. So, mm, yes, that's it. So for that, what do we do now? Oh, hi. More folks joining us. Hello. Hi, Ishu. Hey, Amber. Not actually late. We just started, folks. So, right, what did we do till now? We just created a new SQL file, and now we are writing a smart contract for our to-do list application. So we wrote a struct. We created a new data type with struct task, and we added a task ID for that. Created a description for the user to be able to add the task name, then the status of the task, whether it is completed or not. Now, I didn't want the user to add the task ID every time he is generating a new task. So I created a task count. So whenever a user generates a new task, the task count gets incremented automatically, and the implemented task count gets assigned to the task ID of that particular task. A lot of you know, a lot of times I said task now. So now what do we do? I'll just simply create a function to add that task. And what all parameters do I need? I'll need, first of all, I'll need the string, uh, and I'll add memory. Make sure you add memory and description. So if I add description here, over here, is that okay? Remember that the state variable name, which is this, cannot be same as the name of the parameter. So make sure you add an underscore or something, or make this name as something else. So and then we know we'll need to add. Do we need to add boolean completed or not? What do you think? Never mind. I'll just simply keep it this way, and let us try doing it. I'm making this function public. What else do we need to do? I hope this is fine. So now I want to increment the task count. Let us increment the task count. Now, whenever the user adds this task now, first of all, what happens is that this task count gets incremented. So if it's 0 right now and I'm adding a task, it gets 1 now, right? So now what I'll do, I'll simply assign this task count. And we also forgot one thing, one major thing which is required over here. By default false, right? That was what I was talking. Awesome, train below. So we need not add the boolean completed parameter, because by default the task would be false. And yes, we forgot to add mapping. So first of all, we'll add a mapping, and this mapping would be linked from uint because the task IDs are key. So I'm writing uint over here, and what do I want this mapping to be related to? To task data type, right? So let us name this mapping as task details, right? Not keeping it public for right now, or we can actually keep it public if that's a problem or something. Let me just add public. I hope it's fine. So now I've incremented the task count. Now what I want to do is that I'll call this mapping, use this task count as my ID, task ID right now. Fine. And now I'll call my data type task and will assign values into this. So I know task count will be my current ID, right? And description I've taken from the user input, which is our parameter over here. And by default, the value of the task would be false. The completion status of the task would be false. So this is how you actually created a task. Let us compile and check if it's working fine. And yes, it does, right? So let us deploy this and try adding our task. It got deployed successfully, and below you see two functions. This is for the mapping which has been made public, and this is the function we actually created. So here let us add our task. So what could be our task? Let us add the task as attend GHW. So transact, and it got successful. Now let me add, I know the ID must have been assigned as one, and now let me just fetch the task details. This, since this mapping was public, it's visible to me over here, and now I'm able to view the task details, which is the task ID is one, description is whatever I provided, and the completion status is false. It is because by default I provided the value false, because it would be meaningless if I add true over here at the at the first. It would be actually meaningless because the task has already been completed. So it's there's no meaning now. What's the meaning of infinite task? Infinite gas. Okay. Where is it written actually? Did you find it over here somewhere? Let me find. I need to check what you're actually relating this infinite gas actually to. Ah, couldn't find here. Infinite gas. Okay, never mind. We actually understand the concept of gas, right? So whenever we are actually deploying our contract, or are actually transacting the function, or transacting making a transaction, we are giving some fees for this thing to happen in the form of gas. So every time we give some fee, the gas is getting calculated automatically according to the price, and then it gets deducted from our contract balance. That is what is happening. Oh, when hovering the function. Okay. Doesn't display over here. I'm not quite sure what you are talking about. Okay, add task. I'm hovering over here. I don't know what you are actually saying, but that's okay. I hope you understand. Uh, in remix, it's sometimes in remix it shows the estimated cost. Yes, so that is what I'm talking about. When we'll actually use the MetaMask wallet, you'll see that they'll estimate the gas, and then also let us know if that gas value or the gas price is currently high, and they'll suggest you to not actually make a transaction because it's high. So I think infinite gas must be related to that in the editor. Okay. Okay, I think let's skip this. Understand the concept of gas, and when we will interact with MetaMask wallet, we'll actually see what's happening. Don't worry. Well, when we will use MetaMask wallet, you'll see how this gas bill is actually been calculating how warning is being generated, and you'll understand this concept of dealing with the gas and MetaMask accounts. Okay, so cool. Now we know how to add a task. Let us, what do you want to do now? Let us complete this task. Let us make an option so that the user is able to actually, check mark this task that it has been completed. So I'll create another function, name it as complete, and what do I add over here now? I want the task ID so that the user can uniquely identify which task has to be marked uh, true, which has been completed. Even I don't know. Hey, issue. I'm not quite sure about this. I think you can put this question as in the GHW channel or somewhere, so that this can be addressed by someone else, because I'm not sure about this. I think there might be a swag draw. So right, let us complete this function. Now I want what do I want to do? I want to complete this function. Let me create this function as public. Now, are we accessing some value of from this state variable? Do you think we are accessing some value of from the state variable? Let's check. I'll leave it as it is, and now I'll call my mapping, and through that I'll be able to fetch the details of this task. But I do not actually want to fetch the details over here right now. So what I do, I just call for this particular task ID, call just this state variable. So I'll write completed over here, and now I will just set this completed as true. Earlier it was false, and now I've set it as true. So that is what we did. Now let us compile and look what error do we get. And we did not get any error, surprisingly, because we are actually manipulating the value of the state variable. So whenever we are manipulating the value of state variable, we do not need to write view or public. So you can simply write it this way. It was compiled successfully. Let us deploy it again. I'll move here. I'll add a task here again. Oops. Yes, I think it got successful. It was a successful transaction. I'll also check if the task actually got added. Yes, it is present over there. And observe that the status of this task is currently false. Now let us complete this task using its task ID. I know the task ID is one. I'm checking this task as done, and I just click over the button complete. This transaction occurred successfully. And now when I again call for fetch the details of this task using task details, I get the value true. Did you observe that? So once I'm okay. So once I'm done with changing the value of completed, it actually changes the value using this in this struct as well. So after you fetch the details of task, you'll get true over here. So but what about if you wanted to use your own getter function, if you wanted to fetch the details of the task by yourself? Let's skip that for right now. We'll do that later when we actually do user authentication also. But okay, let's try this. What if I fetch details of task which does not even exist? So it says task ID zero, description does not even exist, and then completed status is false. So this task does not exist. Do you think this transaction should have not even this call transaction should have occurred? What if I call the number task I use the task ID 4 and I complete this transaction. I'm mark this task ID as completed. This transaction actually occurred successfully, that too. Do you think this is correct? What do we do now? Yes, that's correct. When will actually display the task, we can do this. Right, it should have failed, but it didn't. So what do we do now? So what is happening? We are wasting our ether over here, when the task ID does not even exist. So if the user gives an invalid task ID, we can add a require condition over here and fail this transaction. So I am simply adding a require condition that the task ID should be greater than 0 and the task ID should not exceed the task count, right? And I'll also add the message that in case that this task ID is negative or is greater than task count, I'll simply write the task ID does not exist. Fine. Let us try compiling this. Is an error. Oops, we forgot this. Still an error. Did we? Yeah, we missed this underscore. So since our parameter was named as underscore task ID, we have to use underscore task ID here. Let us compile it again and it got successful. Yes, below is our deployed contract. I'll add a task here. Um, Menu groceries transact. Okay, we'll have to expand this. Yes. Now let us also complete this task. I know this task must have been completed. Now I can see this is the task ID 1, description, bring proceeds, and it's completed. So now let us try completing a task number 3, which does not exist here right now in our data. And now when I try to complete this task, observe what actually happened. The transaction was not actually successful. The transaction has been reverted to the initial state. That means the transaction didn't execute. So the reason provided by the contract has also been displayed here, which is the message we wrote in the required condition. The task ID does not exist. So that is how you were able to prevent transactions happening which should not actually have happened. No, it doesn't. But if an invalid transaction happens, which you didn't actually want, to happen, then you'll have to pay the gas fee, of course. Yes, you can use modifier too, but we used required statement here. Not a big deal. We can use modifier as well. Yes. So the next step we have planned to add over here, this is a very basic smart contract you have developed for your to-do list application. You can simply go ahead and make an application using this. But what if we wanted to authenticate the user? So to authenticate the user, let me add another struct. What I'll do is add a struct with user. So here I'll what I'll do is create a user ID. So I think it might get complex for you all. I'll first of all explain to you all what I'm trying to do. So now I want, okay, let me explain it over here. So we have a web page, for example. Think of that we have a web page. We want the user to log in. So for logging in, we want the user to use his address, his account address instead of his email or password or something else. So the user will register himself, user registration actually. So the user will register himself and the address will be used for his registration. Instead, So think of traditional applications. How do we actually register? We use our email ID, and through that email ID, the website registers us, and that email ID becomes our unique identifier. But here, the account address which you'll be using to interact with the web page, with the Web3 site, that is something which will become the unique identifier. So we'll use the user address here. We can also make the user add his name, and along with this, we can also add a boolean status of whether the user is registered or not. So imagine if the user comes for the first time at our website, at our dApp, for sure he'll not be registered. So the website will be able to fetch his account. The website will be able to read his account and will check in its data that whether this person is registered or not. Then it will find that this person is not registered. And once the person registers himself, we can set this as true simply. And then whenever the registered person comes over to the website, the boolean status would be fetched and it would come out to be true, and thus he will be able to access the website. I hope this gives you a little bit of glimpse of what we actually want to do. And also for each user, he will have his own tasks, own list of tasks. So for example, if I am one of the user and if you are one of the users, so I will not be able to view your tasks and you'll not be able to use my tasks. Viewer also, and not. How would we get web token from Solidity? Yes. So yesterday I think got this wrong. I was thinking about one of my other Stack application. So, but here in dApp, you'll not need web tokens, because whenever your smart contract identifies your account information, it will simply fetch all the details, um, and will get to know whether you have registered already or not. So once you have registered, it will simply show you your landing page or your home page. So there's no need of web tokens over here. So I, without making it more complex for you, let me write some piece of code so that you can understand what's actually happening here. No, that is the best part. So user will not have to log in again and again. User will have to just make a one-time registration, and once he is registered with that account address, and for example, I registered today with one of my account address, and go back to this website and I access it. So I'll not have to log in. This account address will be actually will have a status as registered as true. So the details of this registered account address would be fetched automatically, so I need not log in again. I'll show you how this would be happening. um, Cool. So address, we'll have a user address, and then what did we want? We wanted that a status that if this person is registered or not. So for every user, we'll have a status that this person is registered or not. In case if if this user is new, the registered status would be set as false. Right. The next thing I want is that the user should have his name. So I'm simply writing name, string username. And now I want, so there would be a difference over here. Okay, we talked about that every user will have his own set of tasks, right? So for his own set of tasks, we'll have to add the mapping over here of his tasks. First of all, every user will have his own task count, right? One of the user, for example, one of you from the person from the audience can have a task count of 5. I can have a task count of 6, or someone else can have a task count of 5. So this comes under the user struct, so that we can Okay, I'll address the question here. Then how will the website store my account address? So smart contract, whenever you connect, so actually, I know it's getting a little complex for you to understand how actually websites are gonna work. But whenever you actually connect your account address with a Web3 website, the smart contract will be able to identify what account address is being used. So also notice that here we are adding a boolean status of for this particular user account. So if for example, you have registered if you have registered with this account number, then the status must have been set as true for this account number. And when you come back using when you come back and you're using the same account number, the smart contract will check that this registration status is true. Thus, that means it will simply display the website to you and will not, require you to register again. That is something which I'm talking about. So, this Boolean registration status will help a lot to the for the website to know that you are registered already, and the uh, smart contract will be able to fetch the details of your contract, your accounts. We'll see this. I'll show you how React uses Ethereum context, and how it integrates Web3. I think that would be get from MetaMask automatically, like MetaMask sends address to website when website is loading. Yes, we'll look into this. Don't worry, just forget this for some time, and we'll look into this when we will in. Okay, what we can do is right now let us just complete this to-do app, and then we'll use a boilerplate code to understand how MetaMask is working and how the Web3 website is interacting with wallet. Right. I hope that will clear all your doubts. So right now, what I was talking about the task count. Each of the user will have his own task count. So I'm writing task count over here instead of adding it publicly here. Now each of the user will have his own task count, and for each task count, the user will have his own tasks. So now I'll add this mapping here instead. See, imagine you are a user. You have your address, you will have your registration status, whether you are registered to the portal or not. Then you can add your username also. Then you as a user will have your own number of tasks in the website. Initially you will have zero, but later you might add more tasks. Then it will become one, and then two, right? So it will increment as you add more tasks. So for this number of task count, you will have your own tasks. So that's why I've added the mapping here inside the struct user. You understand that? Oh, okay. Um, so now, if this is done, let me just now what else do we want to do now? We also want to map the address of the user to the user struct type. So I can make this public. Right. So we have mapped the address, which is the unique identifier, and we have mapped this along with the user data type. So for each address, it will have a Boolean registration status. It will have the username. It will have the number of tasks and all the task details for each task, which is this, right? So now that we have added a mapping also, we'll want to register the user. So let us try registering the user. First of all, I would really like to ask if you all are, along with me. If you have any doubts, let us just address it right here before moving forward. Let me know, folks, if you have any doubts so that we can take it right now and will not have any problem. Yeah, I'm doing the same. So, okay, awesome. Others says he is on track with us. Charchit also said some yes. I hope it was for this. So I'll just simply register the user now. So for registering the user, what will we need? We will require the username, right? So here we think of what will you need to add as a user. The address will be get identified by the smart contract is itself using message.sender. Do you remember message.sender? We used message.sender to identify which account address is actually interacting with the contract right now. So you need not pass address as a parameter. You need to pass registered status as a parameter. No, by default, the registration status would be false. But once we register the user, it will we can set it as true. Yes, we'll need a string name from the user, so it becomes a parameter. Do we need a parameter of task count? No, task count would be initially zero whenever the user is registering himself. Do we need any task initially? No. So when I am planning to register the user, I'll just give this string memory username. That's it. And now I just want to I know the user address of this person would be message.sender. So I'll call this mapping and using this mapping, and what would be the key over here? What do you think should be the key over here? Yes, correct. The address. And how can we get that? Via message.sender. Correct. So let me just simply write message.sender. And now what I want to do, I have fetched I have found the key, and now I just want to get the value. I'll simply call user address and assign value to it. I know what would be the value of user address message.sender. Now again I'll call my mapping, and for the registration status, I know it will be true now because the user is trying to register himself. So once this function gets executed completely, the registration status should be set as true. And also, I want this to be set as the username, uh, not register, username as underscore username. Oops. That's it. Exactly. You all replied correctly. It was message.sender. So now you have registered the user. You have added the user address as message.sender. You have set the registration status as true. And you have also added the username. So now you are done with the registration status of the user. Now we'll have to, I'll just simply clear this off because we'll have to rewrite this function for ourselves. So let us now add a task for one particular user. So for adding a task, again, I'll just need a description of the task from the user. But now I have to call the user mapping. I'll use message.sender again as the key. I'm calling this mapping, and what I'll call the task count now and increment this task count. So earlier we had stated the task count over here. If you remember, we did like this, and we did this way, and we simply incremented called this global variable and simply incremented it. But now we'll have to fetch the task count from the struct user. So that's why I'm using this mapping. I'm using his account address as the key. and I fetched his task count and I've incremented it, right? So initially the task count by default would be 0. Now once I've incremented it, I would want to add a new task also. So for that, I'll call this mapping from user struct now. I use the user's mapping, use this account address as the key, and from this struct user, I am calling this task details now. I hope you are all along with me. Task count by default gets set as 0, but if you still want, while registering the user, you can set the task count as 0 over here. I hope that's fine. But even if you do not mention that, it will still be used by default as 0. Yep, exactly. Correct, correct. Awesome, Churchill. Churchill, it was right. So now we have used our task details mapping. We know task count will be our task ID, and now I'll simply call my task struct type or data type, and for the first value of data type is task ID, then the description, and then the status of the task. So first of all, I know the task ID would be the task count, but you cannot simply write task count like this. You'll have to use it this way. Users message dot sender dot task count, because the task count has been stored inside the user struct type, right? And then what you'll do, you'll simply write the description, and then what you can do is set it as false. I hope you all are along with me here. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll check. Yeah, correct. Yes, so you all are here. Right. So we have added our task, and the next step would be for us is to complete this task. So how do we complete this task? We again use our users mapping. Use message.sender as the unique identifier. And then let us call our task details. And for task details, I will need a task ID, which I have already passed here in the parameter of my function. So now for this task ID, I want this completion status to be set as true. So I'll simply call completed and set it as true. And you are done with this. Let us just try compiling and see if there are any errors. So task count. Okay, let's do this in a better way. Instead of calling this user's message dot sender task count again and again, I'll simply store this task count somewhere. I'll create a task index and users message dot sender dot task count. Now it's easier. Moving all the task count. Okay, let us simply remove all of this. Much confusing. Now I'm increasing the task index, incrementing the task index, and now for um, for users message dot sender for task details, and for this particular task index, which is our task count, I will add our task. And here I'm adding task index, comma description, comma false. Now let us look for any errors if there are. Yes, it works fine. So observe what we did. Instead of repetitively writing user message dot sender task count everywhere, we simply stored it in a variable, and now we are calling task index instead of writing this all the time. So I've incremented the task index, which is the task count actually, and now I have assigned this task index as the task ID. Here also I have assigned the task index as the ID. And that's it. You have assigned the task with the status as false. Okay, let me address some queries. Okay, this seems to be a later query, but I hope you got what how we have changed some things. So if an unregistered user oh, awesome thing. So I was about to discuss this later. I thought of adding functions and then discuss about this. But yes, that's a valid thing. What if an unregistered user tries to call a function which he should not be able to? So for that, what we can do, we can add some required statements that the user who the account address who is accessing this website should be registered. The status of his account address should be registered, should be true. So we're gonna do that for sure, Shivpreet. Yes, done. Did we miss something out of this? We did that, right? Then okay, but by incrementing the task index, yes, you're correct. You caught it. Right. We're not actually, if we are incrementing the task index, we are not updating the task count in the state variable in the blockchain. So for that, instead of using task index, let us write message.sender dot task count plus plus. Better way to use that, right? Fine. Let us compile it again. Ah, you guys are doing so awesome here. You're catching all the errors. Awesome. Now let us try adding a task. So I 10 GHW workshop, making a transaction, got successful. Now, oh, should it have been gotten successful? No, of course not, because we were not yet even registered. So we had to add a require statement. We'll add it later. Just let us try whether our functions are working fine. So first of all, let me register myself. Khushi, and my account address is this right now, the first one. Transact, got successfully registered. Now I this is my user's public mapping. If you observe, I had made this mapping public. That's why I can fetch the user details. So this requires me an account address, which is this one. So I'll simply go over here, copy account. I've copied this first account, which was mine, from which I have made a transaction. I'll copy paste it here. Now I'll call it. And if you observe, it's giving me the value of my address. It's giving me that I'm registered. It says true. It is telling me my username, and also it says my task count, which is initially zero, because during the registration time we have set the task count as zero, right? So now let us try adding the task. This is how the flow of the user should be. First of all, he'll have to register at any cost, and then he'll be able to use our add task function. Now I have added the task. Let me just complete this task. Also, let us first call this users and check if our task count got updated. This parameter has been already added. I'll simply click this button again, and if you observe, the task count has gotten incremented. Now it's updated. So that means our task count is getting updated every time we are adding tasks. So let me complete this task one, and it gets completed, right? But we do not have a view task function. We need a function so that we can check we actually added this task. We can create that get task function also. Also, let us try adding another task transacted. And now let me call this again and check for the task count. The task count becomes 2 now. So it means our contract is working quite fine. Um, a different discussion going over here now. Task count is, yes, the task index for that particular function is not getting incremented. Only the task count is getting incremented after we're done with that, right? Got it? What's this query now? Oh, you're trying to increment the task count and put it then. Fine, fine. Okay, I got it. I got what you wanted to say. So here what will happen, the task index 0 would be assigned here. So this should be above, right? Instead, the task index would the task ID for each of the tasks would start from 0 instead of 1. Now it should start from 1. So let us create a function to get the task so that we know what is actually happening with the tasks. So for this, what we'll need, we will need a we'll need a uint task ID, and let me create a public, make this function public. Now think of what access modifier should we use over here. What are we trying to do? We are actually trying to view the details. So we're not trying to access, we're just trying to access details from the blockchain, not anything, not no manipulation and nothing else. So that's right. And we'll also be returning some values. I'll return the string description, the task ID, and the status of the task. So we could have simply written task here as well, which is a data type. But I chose to write this way. It's your thing. You can choose whatever. That's fine. So now what I'll do, I am creating a variable over here to store all the tasks. So I call this user, and for that user, I'll call his task details mapping, and I'll call his task for which he want to view. So the user wanted to view this particular task ID. So I called his mapping. I called his mapping of tasks again. And now I have passed this value of task ID. So this entire mapping will give me the task which he actually wanted to view. And now I'm storing this task in this variable. So I have stored this task in the variable. Now I'll simply return the task ID. So which is, and I'll return its description, task.description, and I'll also return task.completed status. Right? I use the same names which I task ID, description, completed, the same names as I had declared in this struct. You could also have return the struct simply the task struct, but I chose to do it this way because it's easier when you are interacting with. Yes, possible that you could have done that, but I chose it this way because it would be easier for you to, when you are interacting with the website and when you are linking your smart contract. Awesome. Oh, so you folks know everything now. Great, great. So, right, we have created a get task function also. Let us compile this. Working fine. Deploying it again. Going here. And let me register myself first. Registering, registered. Let's add a task. Attend hackathon. Added a task. Let me check If the task got added for me, I'll just copy paste my address over there. Copied, pasting. Yes, my address is present there. I am registered. My username is there, and my task count is one now. Right. So let me just get my task instead of now. Let me fetch my task. I know the task ID for this must be one. Let me get this task. Yes. So the task ID is one. Had we not, done this here, we were doing this incrementing thing below here, so the task count over here must have been zero. You understand the concept? So I have incremented it before I added a task. That's why I'm getting the task ID as one now. So it's going correct. And now the string is 10 hackathon and the status is currently false. And let me just complete this task so that the status becomes true. I made a successful transaction. Let me fetch this task, and the status for this particular task is true now, which means it's working completely fine, completely awesome. Now, now we all know that this complete website should work only when the user is registered. So, did you all observe whether the user was registered or not? Was it working? So I am on this, let me use this account address. I'm not registered here right now. Also, I didn't tell you that you have multiple account addresses you can use. You can also choose the environment over here. By default, it's this, but you can choose the environment and then you will get more accounts to use. Right? So I'm not registering myself and I'm trying to add task over here. Call us. Adding a task and observe that it got successfully added. Now, what should come in the picture? The required statement exactly. Ideally, wouldn't we want to show the user all their tasks on the website? How would we do that? Yes. So, what we will do, think of this like we can fetch the task count, right? For each particular user, we have the task count. And do you know the concept of loops? So for each task count for is imagine you have five tasks already listed on the website, right? And to fetch and view those tasks and display on those tasks, you just get the task count. And for each particular task count, which is your task ID, so for task ID 1, you get that task and display it in a table. For task ID 2, you get the task displayed on table. And so you do this process until you are, you completely reach the end of the loop, which will be actually your what task count. Yes, so if you think that that's the way, so you can think of another way and improve this as well. I'll leave this on you. Sure. So that's why I'm saying I have shared my GitHub link, and if you can think of some another thing, I kept this as loop because I knew it would make easier for you all to understand what's actually happening. So if you think there are more ways if that exist, think of them and try actually integrating them into your website, into your app. I completely agree with you all. Completely agree. But try doing that. Try first of all, let's do it with loop. And once you actually get familiar with how we are creating dApp, how we are displaying things, how we are making transactions, you'll be able to add more, and make it more efficient. So let us just keep it simple for this this session. But once you know the basics, you'll be able to add more features and make it better in terms of code, right? So now I was able to add task if you noticed. So if I even try to get the task, I'm able to get the task too. So what is happening that I'm not checking whether the user is registered. So let me add a check over here. I'll add a required statement that the user The account address should be registered from which this query of add task is coming. So what do you do? Um, so first of all, let us skip this. And did you notice that we also didn't put a check for the task ID? What if an invalid task ID is being called here? So let me just put a required condition for this. Task ID should always be greater than 0 in our case, and less than equal to, what is the task count? The task count is users inside the users mapping dot task count. Here comes the task count. And what I'll just display a message invalid task index. So similarly, I'll do it for complete task also. But remember, if you're adding repetitive conditions for require, you can simply create a modifier instead. Okay, so now that we are done with this thing, let us create a require statement that the user must be registered. So for this, I'll call the user mapping for the message.sender, and we'll check if the registration status is true. Right? If this registration status is true, then only this function will execute, then only this add task function will execute. Otherwise, else it will show me a function that user is not registered. Right? And do we need a require condition for any other function? I don't think. Let us compile and check. Yes, it's fine. Let me deploy it. Here is our deployed contract. And let me add task without registering myself. So I'm adding a task, um, 10 at BNB. Right. So I'm adding a task, and I have a transaction which got reverted to the initial state, and it also shows me the message that user is not registered. Right. So this is how you are managing the authentication process. So whenever the user is registered, only then the website will be displayed to him. Otherwise, it won't. Yes, you're correct. And we will use modifier instead of writing require condition everywhere. It won't actually, but think of this that when, for example, think of this, if you're trying to complete a function with an invalid index, this function will actually require ether, this is a transaction. You're not fetching any details. So if you try to do that, it will give an error, right? Invalid task index, it says. So I hope you get that. Also, did you notice that for completing the function and also viewing the task, we need to check that the user is registered or not. So this same modifier, this same required statement should be valid over here too. Am I right? So let us convert these into modifiers instead. And we usually, what we do is we write the modifiers here after this mapping. So I'm writing only registered user, and I'll simply copy paste this. Yeah. Require users message.sender true else. So I can simply remove it, the require statement from this, removing it from here also, and from here also. And what do? We simply call this only registered user mapping. Oh, okay. So you have to write this only registered. modifier before the return statement. Now let me check if it's working fine. No, there is an error. Do you remember what the error is? We didn't follow the syntax of writing modifier. You always have to end the modifier with an underscore semicolon. Still an error. What did we miss? Spelling. Fine. Yes. Awesome others. Yes, that's it. So I think it will work fine now. Let me try doing something so that we are assured that our okay fine. I'm simply trying to add a task. User is not registered. Okay, I'll register myself. She register and let me try to complete a task which not does not exist right now. Invalid task index correct. It's working fine. I'm trying to add this task. It gets added. I'm trying to fetch a task which does not exist. Gets me a correct answer, and I'm trying to fetch a task which is one, and the boolean status is false right now. Let's complete that task, and the boolean status gets converted to true, which means it's working completely fine. So now you have written your smart contract for the to-do list application, but I plan to add one more feature in that. So which function are we talking here about? See, we used view for this function for get task function because we were reading the value of task details from here. But for any other function, we didn't even write pure or view because we were trying to manipulate with the values of state variables. I hope you understand that. And let me know for which function are you getting this error so that we can address it. See, wherever you get this type of problem now, where it says that this expression is modifying some state, then you need not add view. Ah, how come in get task are you changing something? I'll copy paste this code for you so that you can check out where you're going wrong. Also, you can check out the GitHub repository for anywhere you get stuck. I posted it there for you so that it becomes easier. Oh, so YouTube sent this comment in pieces. Fine, that's fine. Okay, let us add another feature to our function. I want the user to be able to delete task in case he if he doesn't want the task anymore or any other reason for any other reason. So for this as well, he'll need a task ID, getting a task ID, and I am making this function as public, and I only want the registered user to be able to use this function, which is to delete the task. And also I want I think we should have also made a modifier for this also. Never mind, we'll make that. So now I also want the task index to be valid. So I've created this over here. And now what I am planning to do is that whenever a user tries to delete some task, for example, I have a task count of 5 right now, and I have that means I have task number 1, I have task number 2, task number 3, task number 4, task number 5. Right. So now I want to delete task number 2. So okay, I delete task number 2. But does that mean we leave us empty space over here? No, we won't want some empty space in our in our mapping. It won't actually leave an empty space. So but this task ID would become invalid. Do you understand? That there would be no task ID too. But that shouldn't happen, right? For task, if the task count is 5, there should exist 5 tasks. and the task ID should be, in a continuous manner. So if I'm deleting task number 2, this is not a convenient way. So what we will do is that we'll bring the task number 5 over here. We'll bring the last task here in place of the deleted task and leave the other tasks as it is. But we also want to change the task number, task index. So what we'll do for this, we will set the task index of this task as the deleted task index. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to remove any of the tasks we want. Okay, let us first figure out this problem. Okay, you all also can check out what the problem is here. I am also along with this checking. Fine. Okay, so what is the you were getting that you are trying to modify it, but here we are not actually modifying. Oh, you want me to copy paste your? Okay, okay, but this doesn't actually allows me to copy paste. Load. So that's why, Adarsh, I was suggesting that we should have used where is the get task? That's why we have used this. We have returned instead of a struct type, we have returned uint, string, and boolean. So this will make easier to display the tasks when we are displaying it on the website, because as a struct it will be difficult for the website. We'll have to think of how we will display it. But here, if I'm doing it this way, I'll simply have to put the task ID under the task ID header and description under that header, and this under the completed header. So it's better to simply return the values of the task struct instead of returning the entire struct. But I understand what you are doing. Let us try it, that also, and check out how come it's getting wrong. Instead of returning it this way, why won't I try to ask memory? Okay. Get, oh, uh, it compiles fine for me. It's giving me error for this, which it should. What mistake did you do? I'm not quite sure what where you did went wrong until and unless I see your entire code. But I'm copy pasting this as well for you. See, I'm compiling it again, and it is fine because of course we're not making any changes in the state variables. So view is being used since we are fetching details of the task from the state variable, and it compiles fine. I'll paste. Check out again. I believe you must have made some mistake earlier in this code. That's why you might be getting this error. Otherwise, it's fine. The logic behind your idea was also fine. I'll undo all of this. Okay, cool. That's where we were. And I hope you got to know how we are gonna delete the task. We're going to delete any of the tasks we need. For example, I'm deleting two. I'll delete the two, but I do not want this task ID of two to remain empty. So what I'll do, I'll bring the last task in place of this task two, and I'll rename this task ID to the task ID of deleted task. Fine. So what I'll do is I'll use the mapping message.sender, and then for the task details, I'll call this particular task ID which I'm planning to delete. Right? And for this task ID, I'll assign the values of last task ID, which is the last task count. Now, here inside, I are you getting it? I want to add the task ID of the last task index. So that should be my task count. And to fetch the task count, I know I'll have to use users message.sender.task count. Right? I fetched that. Fine. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to delete the last task index. So explain this again for if you all got confused here in between. Task details, and now I know that I'm deleting the last task index. Fine. Same thing. And also I'll rename the task index of the task I've pushed forward. Task details. And I'll fetch the task. I know the task ID is this. For this particular task ID, this task ID. It must have gotten complicated for you all. I'll explain again over here. Think of that you have 5 tasks and you have these task indexes. Now you want to delete the second task. Okay, awesome. So instead of simply going over here and deleting this, what I do is I'll bring the fifth task here. I have now done this. I have equated the task index of 2's values as the values of task index 5. So now my task index 2 becomes task 5. Now what I want to do, I do not want task 5. I'll simply delete task 5 here. And but I also do not want this task index 5 as the value. I want task index 2 as the value. So I am doing this. This exactly is happening in above statements. First of all, what we do, we fetch, we call this task ID which wants to be deleted, and I assign the last task index values to it. Right? We have assigned the value, so it becomes now 1, 5, 3, 4, 5. Now we delete the last index with the task count as the index. So we deleted 5. And now I have reassigned the task ID for this particular task, and now it is 2. I hope you get that. So we're still stuck here. Okay, function cannot be declared because the expression. That's others. I would really suggest you do once. I'll give you the link for the same. Just wait a second. I'll give you the link to check out this contract so that you can check whether you are making a mistake earlier. I am giving this link to you. Check out over here. But I here in this code I have used the indexing of tasks as we have the indexing in array. So the tasks for me here in this project are starting from 0, right? And they're going until task count -1. So you can check out this repository if you have, if you have any confusion. No, it's not actually deleting both 5. Let's cover this again so that we do not, stay in any confusion. Yes, I don't understand clearly. So for this smart contract, yes, we are gonna use this smart contract in our project. We'll write this smart copy paste this smart contract in our VS Code and use and write our front end and deploy it on Ganache. And this GitHub link also consists of the smart contract, the front end code. So you'll be able to easily understand. This front end code might not be updated. I'll push something if I I'll check once if there's something which needs to be updated. Right. So let us still check out how we deleted this again. So I'll explain this again for you all. Oh, I thought we could start with the front end today. Okay. Again. Okay, let's not take five. It must have been confusing for you all now. Let's take seven. 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you want to delete fifth task. What do we do? We're simply doing I'm planning to do that. I'll call the seventh task over here. I'll assign the value of fifth task as the seventh task and keep the seventh task as it is. Right? Done that. Then I am here in this line of piece of code. I actually called the task ID which was to be deleted, which is 5. I wanted to delete 5. I called this task ID. I called the details of this task ID and assigned the value of last task ID to it. I assigned the value of seventh task ID to this particular task ID which was to be deleted. So my task ID 5 has the details of seventh task ID now. Right? Now what do I do? I delete the last task ID. I delete the seventh task ID in this piece of code. I deleted it, but if you observe the task count is the task IDs are not consistent. Since I'll be running the loop, I want them to be consistent. So should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what do? I rename the task ID of 7 as the task ID which we actually deleted. So what task ID did we delete? We deleted the fifth task ID. So we rename it as 5 now. So here we are renaming the task ID of this particular task and setting it as the task ID which has been passed. That means which the task ID which is being deleted. I hope this makes a little clear. Why is that happening? I'm not quite sure. Because it runs quite fine for me and then this shouldn't have happened. Hmm. Okay, what you can do others that when we will actually deploy this contract and use this in VS Code, you can check over there again, or else completely download this repository and there you can check. So like this contract we're deploying on local network. What are the website to deploy it in actual network? So if you want to actually deploy it, you can deploy it on Ethereum network or some other networks like Polygon now, there's Solana blockchain. But right now we're only going to deploy it on Ganache, which is the local blockchain simulator. Yes, sure, you can do that. You can raise a ticket and get I can get back to you. That's a better idea. And do send me your code or some folder so that I can check. My username, I'll have to check. I remember, yeah, it's Khushi Mahaval without any spaces. I think that's the username. Otherwise, else you can, simply write Khushi from MLH. I hope you'll get that. So the task count, yes, we missed that. Exactly. Awesome. Awesome. Is that Manav? Awesome, Manav. So we didn't update the task count yet. Here, right now, the task count was 7. It's still 7 here. And it's still 7 here and here. But do you think it should be 7? It should be 6 now. So let me reduce the task count. message.sender dot task count minus frames, and the task count has been reduced now, and the contract is deploying fine. I mean, compiling fine. I'll delete all of these first, right? So I hope you understood what happened over here. Let us deploy and check if everything is working fine, because this will be our final contract, and then we can get started with our front end and complete our to-do application. Okay, cool. Let me first register myself. So whenever we deploy, we'll have to start from the beginning. We'll have to register every time we are deploying this, and then let us delete. No, let us add some task again. I'll add simply attend GHW. Added a task, and let me fetch the task details. Okay, awesome. It's fine. Let us complete this task. Let us again fetch the task details. True. Great, great. Let us add more tasks. Okay, what should I add? Hackathon tomorrow. So more features in this tool application can be added as we can add a deadline for the tasks and a reminder something as well. So I can leave all of this upon you. Now let me fetch the details. Yes, status is false. Fine. Um, okay. HW season launch. Add task. No, third. It's third task now. Fine. So now let me delete the second task. Let us delete the second task. It got executed successfully. This task second is deleted now. Now we know that the third task must have become the second task, right? Because the task count must have decreased from 3 to 2 now. And yes, the second task is GHW season launch. Otherwise, it should have been what? Hackathon tomorrow, right? So, did you all get confused or something today? Got tired? I think these technical workshops are usually for 2 hours, but if you are tired or confused, or it's too much for today, we can wrap up. Or else, I was planning that we can at least create our directory and set up our project so that we can get started with the front end tomorrow. What do you say? Oh my god, that's great. That's great. Uh, I feel so bad. Just create a ticket right now. I'll address it today, and we'll check what's going wrong. Wrong. Okay. Awesome. So the next step I'm planning to do is create a directory. You can keep this thing safe, and I'll first share my screen, the other screen, so that you can know. Okay. So what all do I want to do now? I hope you all had installed VS Code, Node.js, etc. Ooh, that's right. And I didn't address this problem. Okay, let's quickly do that. Let's quickly do that. I had really thought of this. I had written it in my notes, but I forgot. Thank you so much, Charchit. And let's do that. Let's add a require statement here as well. That if the registration status for this coming address is true, is not allowed to register himself again. Awesome. So now let me just call this mapping users message.sender. So for this particular address, if the registered status is true, if the registered status is false, then it should execute, right? If the registered status is false, then this it should execute. So I'll add a negation over here, and I'll add in case this holds, this isn't true. That means that the registered this person is already registered. Then there should be a message that user already registered, right? So okay, I'll have to deploy it again. Yeah. What did we do? Okay, semicolon. Let's deploy it again. And first of all, I know I'm using this one. Okay, I'm using the first account. I'll register myself. I've registered. Okay, and I'm trying to register myself again with some other name. Okay, let me register. And now that's it, that we didn't want to happen, and it's working correctly now. The transaction has been reverted because the user is already registered. So I'm saving, I'm preventing the user from registering himself again and again, right? I hope you got that. So I'll share my screen. So now the first thing you have to do is create a new Hey, am I audible? I just had a power cut over here, and you'll have to give me a moment so that my Wi-Fi, comes back, and we can get started again. Am I audible to you all? Yes, awesome. So please give me a moment, folks. You all can also, take a break for a few minutes so that my Wi-Fi is alive, and we can get started. So it's quite hot in India. It's I'm sweating now. Okay, awesome. The light is back, and you'll have to wait a few more minutes. Same. We are also having rains over here, but it's quite humid now. So, oh, I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi takes a lot of time to get back and get started. So, super sorry for that. It's lazy as I am. Okay, so we have do is create a new directory. I'm also creating a new directory, a new folder. You can create it wherever you want. You can create it through the command prompt uh, by using make directory mkdir. But you can also simply create a new folder. I'm creating a new folder, naming it as to do app, and then um, I will open my VS Code. I'll navigate to that directory and open my VS Code. Fine. Just open VS Code and then navigate to that directory. Oh, when will my Wi-Fi come? So I think my Wi-Fi is super lazy. Everybody else's Wi-Fi is available, not mine. The voice is static. Uh-oh. Just wait a few moments more. Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you, folks. Thank you so much for letting me know the status of your voice. Thank you. Hey. So meanwhile, just open your folder and open your VS Code. Why is it taking so much time? Is it better now? Am I audible to you all? I cannot see the screen. Still not? Okay, great, great, great. Just give me a few more seconds. We will be good to go. Is it still freezed? I wasn't using remix. That's why it should be. It must be freezed for you all. Was it freezed now? Okay, let me check myself. Now it doesn't seem freezed. Is it frozen for you all? Yeah, great, great. But I think there is still some issue with my Wi-Fi, but I'll keep going now. So let me open my VS Code. I'll share my screen. Okay. I will have to, switch off my video. Share screen. Yeah, share. Awesome. So, add it to stream. Fine. So now what we are going to do, open your terminal here. I hope you all had already installed Truffle. I had yesterday we had given this command, which was Truffle, which was what npm install global Truffle, right? So I hope you all had installed your that. So if you have already installed Truffle and Node.js, we will simply unbox the boilerplate code for React. Like this command over here. This will quickly set up a dApp with the pre-configured React frontend, and it will make it easier for all of us. So here you see is a client folder and a Truffle folder. Okay, fine. So you can see the client and the Truffle folder. And in the client folder, if you will observe, I'll expand it for you all. Here you see in this client folder, we have the node modules package. So these node modules are all the dependencies you will need in this React front end. Then you have public. You here in this folder you can add some assets if you want, and then there's the source folder. So in React, what happens is that you have this app.jsx file where you call all the pieces of components you need to display in your website. So what we do usually is that imagine a landing page website, and for it, imagine it has a header, it has a hero page, hero banner in that, and then it has some about us content, then it has a contact us content section, and then at the end it has a footer. So what do we do in React? We break all of this in pieces, which is called components. So header will be one of my components, and the hero banner will be one of my components. The footer will be one of my components. So that is how we actually do. Now wherever I want to call that particular component, I'll simply write the name. For example, observe that how they have simply written the footer, which is one of the components, right? So this is how in app.jsx, which is your landing page, call it the landing page for now. So this is how you can call all the components here. So there is a components folder where you can add all the components which you are creating. Look over here. This is the footer.jsx. It simply contains all the HTML code you write. It just the difference is that there is a JSX difference, that the syntax is a little bit different because it allows you to write in HTML as well as JavaScript. I hope you are all along with me and I'm audible to all of you. So that is how it actually, these React actually works, then you observe we have a context folder, and this context folder contains context files. You might not be understanding what context files are here. So this allows you to manage the state of your dApp. So this will allow you to get the details of what contract has been deployed. Because imagine what if you have multiple contracts to be deployed. So this context will allow you to fetch the details of which contract is being used by the user right now, or which contract should be used, and what are accounts. A user can use multiple accounts in their app, interact with multiple accounts. So this context will also help us to know what account is being used. It will fetch all the accounts and will let us know what account is being used. So check out this eth.provider.jsx. What it is simply doing is that it is initializing a Web3 provider for you all. So if there is no Web3 provider, it will use this particular link. And this particular, I'll also open my Ganache along with this one now and share the screen for that. Okay, I got a few yes, so it's working fine. So Ganache takes a little bit time to open up. So if it might take some time for you also. My voice is breaking. I'll see what I can do. Okay, I'll try to stop my cam for some time. Now it's back. Awesome, it's back. Okay, just give me a second. I'll connect to this network so that we do not face any more problem. Okay, awesome. We're done. Right. What truffle command did you try to get that? Okay, I'll paste it here for you all. So this command will help us get all the pre-configured React front-end code. Thank you, Ember. He also pasted it over here. So I'll share my screen for Ganache. Stop screen. Present. Where is Ganache? I cannot see Ganache. Okay. I think I'll have to share my entire screen. No problem. Okay. I think this must be visible to you all now. Yes. So once you open Ganache, you'll be able to see this. Just go ahead and quick start Ethereum. This will open a local blockchain simulator for you all. And what we're gonna do here, we'll first observe what is this. So it takes time. So we were talking about this. So here, this is initializing and connecting to a Web3 provider. Then observe we have index.js. It is doing nothing. It is just exporting all the files so that we can import it wherever we want. Then this is state.js. It is initializing the state, the actions, and the reducer logic. Ignore it for now. Just simply ignore it if you do not understand. And use it is a custom hook. We have hooks in React, which allow us to manage state. So this is a custom hook which will allow us to access the values of account and the contract. So I hope it's yes. So screen is sharing well. Yes. So it's open. So look over here. We have multiple addresses similarly as we have a hardened remix. Check out remix. We had multiple account addresses to use, right? So here also we have multiple account addresses to use. Now you can, if for example, okay, let me do one thing. I'll run this this dApp. We have already started Ganache. Our Ganache is running, and what at the first we do is that we'll open each provider.jsx, check out if this port number, if this link is connect, if is same as this link, which is the RPC server link over here. So I observed that this is different from what has been written over here. So I'll change it, make this port number as 7545, and leave everything as it is. Right. Also, here in truffleconfig.js, which is in truffle folder. Actually, we didn't talk about truffle folder. Let us also look over this. The truffle folder has a contracts file, contracts folder, where you see the SOL, which is a solidity file. Here, this is the place where we'll write our contract, and migrations folder will allow us to deploy it on Ganache. And then we have scripts and test also, where you can write your own tests and then test the application. Right. So I was saying that also check in the truffle config.js. You can uncomment this over here, and I'll simply change the port number because my default port number for Ganache was 545. But if it's 8545 for you and it's written 8545 for you already, so it need not change this. I did connect to the other one and it should not break now. Um, if you allow me, I'll first do a quick speed test for my internet. And also, we are about to cover the time, so I think if it's breaking now, we can, skip this part and we can cover it tomorrow. But we'll have to be too quick tomorrow's because we'll have to complete the entire front end. So observe that in Ganache you have 10 accounts. So you can use any of the 10 accounts for, I think my internet should be working fine now. Am I audible, Shivpreet? Could you confirm again that if the voice is breaking? Sweet is fine. And you say when I switch to VS Code, it's a problem. Okay, I'll quickly, what I'll do, I'll quickly run this application and show you. So first of all, I, I know we have the front end code is in client folder and the contract is in truffle folder. So to run to run the front end, then yeah, first of all navigate to the folder where your front end is and do a quick npm start. This is the command which will run your run your front end code and uh, open another terminal, navigate to the truffle folder, which is where your contract is, and quickly do a truffle migrate. This will allow you to deploy your contract onto this blockchain. So let this happen. Oh, my screen is sharing fine. It's happening again. Okay, so how are we gonna write code tomorrow if it's happening again? Okay, I'll somehow do something for tomorrow. Can you see this? So as soon as this website opened, my MetaMask extension also opened. Did you observe that? So it's loading right now and it's connecting to my network. I'll I've paused it for now and I'll simply log in here first. Now that I've logged in, I'll use this extension. I'm not connecting any of the accounts. First of all, I'll expand this view. I do not like it in minimized manner. So here, if you observe, I do not have any ether in any of the accounts I have. So what I'll do, I'll use, also observe our contract has been deployed successfully over here, right? So it also shows total deployment one and the final cost which was used to deploy the contract. So also notice the transaction count which occurred here in the Ganache, and you can also observe that a new block has been mined and one of the transactions for contract creation occurred in Ganache, right? So now what I'm planning to do, I'll use one of these accounts from Ganache. I'll copy the private key. I'm done. I've copied the private key for this particular account. I'll go back to MetaMask, and here I'll import this account. I'll paste the key, I'll import it, and it shows me 100 ether, which was true because this account had 100 ether in it. Create and run truffle. It's truffle unbox react, which will allow you to unbox the react box so that you can use it. Truffle unbox react. Unbox. So now look at the front end. This is our front end. And to use this, I'll have to connect my account. I have imported an account with the name of account number 7. I am going to my extension. I'm clicking on that extension, and it's already giving me a suggestion to connect with the account number 7. I'm connecting with it, and it says, observe here, it says connected, right? So I'm connected with this account now. So I am reloading it. Right. Observe it's working completely fine. And now check out this. This is a part, a section, a component. This is another component. This is another component. And this is another component. So we have called different components in our app.jsx, and they're being viewed here now. And look at this. This is our simple storage contract. Did you check out the contract? This is the simple storage contract which we read, which we studied for the first time. Here they're taking a value, they are reading this value from the user, and they're actually writing this value first, and then the user can read this value. So let us pass a value. I'm passing value 40, and let me write it. So once I click on the button, I am executing a new transaction now. So you see, the whenever I hit the button for transaction, the MetaMask opens, and it's suggesting me, it's estimating the gas, that this is the amount of gas it might take, and it is not giving me any warning, which means that the gas prices are not high right now. So it's fine. I can go ahead. I'm confirming, and this transaction was confirmed. This transaction got successful. Now let us try to read the value which we passed. And now when I try to read it, I see the red 40 over here. This is the value which we passed. So this is how our dApps are going to. Okay, for that you're saying, sure. So to run the, okay, first of all, do a CD client, and then npm start, and otherwise do, okay, cd truffle and truffle migrate. So CD client npm start will allow you to view your front end, and truffle migrate will deploy your contract. So this is how we're gonna deploy our smart contract of to-do application tomorrow, and write its front end code, where we will be interacting with the functions we have written of the smart contract. So if you all folks have any queries, I'll address it now, and otherwise we can um, close the workshop, wrap the workshop up. So you understand how MetaMask is, we're importing the account to MetaMask through Ganache, and then using the account balance which we have been provided for that particular account. So tomorrow will be our last day to complete our dApp, and we will simply copy paste the smart contract we have developed on Remix to the Truffle folder. In which network in MetaMask should we? Yes, let us also cover that. Yes, it's viewing. So check out this. Open your MetaMask, uh, and then here you will observe there are some networks which you can connect to. So just click on this add network, right? When you click on this add network, go down here and you'll see add a network manually, right? And then right here, some give a network to your name. I have given it my network. And then for new RPC URL, go to Ganache, copy this, copy this URL, paste it over here. The chain ID, the default chain ID for connecting Ganache and MetaMask should be 1337. You can skip the currency symbol or write just simply write Ether over here and simply save it because it's already in use. So that's why I cannot add another my network. So this is how you can connect your Ganache with. See, observe this. My network. I have added my network with the my network name. This is my RPC URL, my chain ID, and Ethereum as the symbol. How to see the Ether on MetaMask? I connected the account with private key. So when you connect your account with a private key, so it will, for example, I have been given the name as account 7 for the account I imported. This is the account balance which is being viewed for me right now. Let us try to import another. This is the another account I'm trying to import. I am copying the key. I'm going back and I will just import this account, pasting this key over here, imported it, and it says 100 Ether. This is how you can view the account balance. Awesome, Shivpreet. Awesome. Great. Great, Churches. So I hope you all got the glimpse of how you can, connect your MetaMask, your Ganache, and your Truffle as well. You can go ahead to your truffleconfig.js and ethprovider.js to connect your Ganache RPC URL with the Truffle. So that's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you later tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. IST, and we'll complete our front end, and we'll be able to build our first ever dApp. So thank you so much. Bye bye, and we'll wrap this workshop for today.